when Dr. Obi would always say, there is a demand side of government and governance, and there is a supply side. We are the people. It's just like if there are no demands for people to eat food, for people to fly, for people to use transport.
So guys, this was a beautiful interactive session with Aisha Yesufu and Maureen Kabrick. Honestly, they've got some important information for the Obidient family, and I thought it would be nice to share it with you guys. Please just take your time, relax, and listen to what they've got to say. We all know Maureen Kabrick. She was one of the voices, during the campaign. And today she's here to charge the Obedients, to encourage them not to give up in the fight for a new Nigeria. So guys, I'm going to allow you listen to what she's got to say. Honestly, you will get inspired by her words. One of our senator-elect equally joined during this session, and I tell you, it was an amazing time. Just relax and listen and take your lessons from this conversation. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, turn on the notification bell. Please give this video a like so that YouTube can recommend it to others, and let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me once again, Aisha. And thank you all to all those who have tuned in, and to all those listeners, and to all those who have joined via Zoom, via Facebook, YouTube, and also Twitter. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in. At a time like this, a call is being made on each and every one of us to wake up and become active citizens. The time is now. There is this popular saying of Plato, who once said that one of the huge penalties of refusing to participate in politics is that you end up being governed by your inferiors. So I will open my message to everyone who is listening in to understand, going by what Aisha's opening line was all about, how governance affects us as citizens, and also the roles of citizens, especially in a democracy. I would like us to know as citizens that we have rights that are fully enshrined in the Constitution. If there's anything that this election of 2023 has all exposed us to, is that we are all now some kind of mini knowledgeable around the Constitution, the electoral laws, and all the laws that governs us, all because of the interest that we now have taken, because we have suffered the consequences, of not participating in politics and not playing our roles as citizens, which directly will connect to how we would be governed or how we are being governed. And so for 23 years, our refusal to participate in politics, our neglect of participating in politics has led us into suffering dire consequences, where we do not matter as citizens, where today Nigerians are facing untold hardship, where today the suffering, the pains, the agony, the bloodshed that we have seen is something like we have never ever seen before. And this is as a result of us citizens taking the back seat and allowing, even if it were our inferiors that were in government or that are in government, our refusal to participate. And this participation is on the demand side. Our refusal to stay demanding, our refusal to stay asking questions, our refusal to demand for transparency, our refusal to demand for accountability, our refusal to stand up and be counted, being afraid, turning the blind eye because it's my brother or it's my sister or it's someone that is from my religion or it's someone that is from my village or it's someone that I share the same language with. Our refusal to make demands on them, because of all of these sentiments, has all led us to where we are today. So indeed, citizens will suffer because we have refused to connect our lives, the quality of the lives that we would live, with those in government. And that is the price we're paying for. As Aisha said, she read somewhere today that Saudi Arabia was already uplifting its citizens out of Sudan. And I can tell you, I have watched a few of the international news media in the past couple of days, and I haven't seen where Saudi Arabian citizens went to the streets to ask their government to do that. I haven't seen where people were calling out their government in other parts of the world to do the needful. Why? Because just as Aisha said, it's the simplest of things to do, because that is the primary function of every decent, responsible government. But because we have always had an irresponsible government in place, reason why in our own situations, we will have to make demands, we will have to push them, we will have to ask questions. Reasons why you have irresponsible citizens, like the person who sent Aisha the tweet saying, oh, she's a selective activist. Then you ask yourself the question, what has he chosen to make demands of from the government? What has he chosen to lend his voice to? What has he chosen, or who has he chosen to speak for? Which of the issues that is bedeviling Nigerians has he decided to speak for? Instead, he chooses to find excuses not to do that, but to look for people who have always put themselves forward in making demands from government. Nigerians are very good, at sitting in their comfortable homes, or sometimes, as my sister would say, those homes that don't even have power, that doesn't even, because even when, just for example, now before this meeting started, I had to quickly get the gateman because we haven't had power since morning. Please, I was timing myself, turn on the gen. I had because of the noise of the generator, I can't sit in the sitting room. I have to shift the table into my room. I have to bring the chair. I have to do a new setting altogether in my bedroom because I can't afford to sit in the sitting room. Now, this is one of the effects of our inability to demand for good governance. That's the price we are paying. The unavailability of power, water, all of these basic resources that are the barest minimum that is expected of every responsible government. We lack it. We lack it because as citizens, we have decided to cede our powers to the irresponsible governments we have had over the years. Reason why when there is no power, instead of us putting pressure, demands, going to the street to protest, giving them timelines, ensuring that they do the needful, we go and buy generators. Reason why when there is no water, I can't remember the last time I went to any house where I saw them using water from water board. Every house now has a borehole in Nigeria. So we have also, that the refusal of citizens to connect that aspect of our lives also with the level of bad governance that we have is what has seen us suffering and paying the price. Now the consequences is we're all digging boreholes. Just recently they came and cut off the meter that connects our borehole to in the house that I live in, because they said we also have to be paying for meter for pumping water. So you can clearly see that even where government fails and you make that provision for yourself, they still find a way to still come back and tax you, even after you have made provisions for yourself. And I ask myself, how long are we going to keep, abdicating our responsibilities as citizens and having the government constantly coming again? Because as I am right now, I am fit to be called the president of Nigeria also. Because the functions of the president, I also do it for myself. I provide my own security. I provide my own power. I provide my own water. I provide everything that the Constitution says the government is to provide for its people. So what is the function of the government? Absolutely nothing. So we as citizens, we have, I would put that, squarely still on us, that we haven't done enough. And as Aisha said in her opening remarks, when Dr. Obi would always say, there is a demand side of government and governance, and there is a supply side. We are the people. It's just like if there are no demands for people to eat food, for people to fly, for people to use transport network, all those things will be provided for. But because there is a need for those things, that is why you constantly will see that the supply side will keep supplying those things, like the private sector that understands the need to make profit. So they will constantly supply us with those things. Meanwhile, the government that should alleviate our suffering through subsidies, through all these other incentives that they could provide for the system, they are completely missing in the picture. Why? Because we are at home and we are comfortable with the bad governance that is being given to us. However, let me close this opening remark by saying I am glad that the coming of Peter Obi into the electoral space has seen for once an awoken citizenry. Nigerians are woke, as they say. Nigerians are woke, as they write on social media. I have seen the birth of a Nigeria that I have always said will happen someday in our lifetime. Of a Nigeria that I said every time that it must work in my lifetime, because they say words of our mouth are powerful. And I have always said that Nigeria must work in my lifetime. So I am happy to see that Nigerians are now woke and have understood the connection to the quality of life that you would live is dependent on the kind of government that you have. If you have an irresponsible or a criminal government in power, all you will get is what we have: chaos, hunger, anger, pain, anguish, sorrow, bloodshed, criminality of all kinds, terrorism, kidnapping, all sorts. Name it. That is all you have. But when you have that demand side that is constantly demanding for that accountability and giving the rogues in office sleepless nights, trust me, all these countries you see them run to go and enjoy themselves and everything and come back and give us nothing is exactly what Nigeria too would be, and much more, because we have it in each of the 36 states, including the FCT, to make Nigeria one of the best countries in the world, where we all will share and participate in all of its glory that it has to offer to each and every one of us. So I say to everybody listening, well done, because you're listening into this space today. Shows that you are ready to be an active citizen, shows that you are woke, shows that you are ready to demand, shows that you will no longer abdicate your responsibility, shows that you're going to put government on its toes, shows that you will no longer be silent, shows that your voice will no longer be suppressed, shows that you have decided that as citizens you occupy the highest office in the land. And power in a democracy belongs to the people and not to the people in government. The day Nigerians, young and old, rich and poor, because there's no longer a middle class. The middle class has been wiped out. So you are either rich in Nigeria today or you are poor. So for most of us, forget that you have a generator in your house. Forget that you can supply your own power. You are poor because there are certain necessities today that you still cannot afford like you used to. So there's only two classes today in Nigeria, the rich and the poor. However, the day we all come together and realize the power belongs to the people in a democracy, then we would understand that there is a direct connection with us no longer going to sleep, with us no longer just sitting at home or sitting idle, but that our lives will begin to change for the better when we all stay demanding and giving those in power sleepless nights, because they swore to protect, defend, and provide to every citizen, irrespective of class, status, ethnicity, or religion. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Maureen Kabrik. It's always a pleasure to listen to you. It's always a pleasure to hear you speak on those issues and just hit the nail.
For me to refer to you as a distinguished senator, because you earned that title. So you have every right to be called a distinguished. And I want you to know that people like us are not going to sleep. People like us are going to be awake. People like us are going to be reading every submission of yours that you're going to make on the floor of the Senate. People like us will be cheering you on, and at the same time, wherever we feel that we need to call your attention, most especially to the issues around Abuja. I am an entrepreneur that works in Abuja, and I know what we face every day in Abuja. So having you there, I know without a doubt that a lot of the things we cry about as citizens of Abuja would begin to get the attention that it deserves. Congratulations. Hearing your journey, hearing your story is quite inspiring, extremely inspirational. It shows your doggedness. It shows that you were determined, you were resilient. So when we say that we are not after tokenism as women, this is what we are talking about. And for women, for young females who are on this platform listening, this is what it takes for us to be at the table. We will keep pushing, whether they like it or not. We will bring our tables, whether they give it to us or not. We will bring our chairs, whether they give it to us or not. We'll bring our own food, 3-course meals, whether they give it to us or not. That is what Auntie Ireti has just helped us to understand, the journey she has had. And you can clearly see it wasn't politics of bitterness. It was politics of everybody just sharing their views, and then may the best man win, not what we have today. So now, before I veer off, let me answer back to Aisha's question, roles of citizens when it comes to holding the legislature accountable and ensuring that they deliver on their promises that they do when they are being sworn in. What is a democracy, first and foremost? Democracy, we are told, is government of the people, for the people, and by the people. And just as my earlier submission, when I made it, I said, what has been missing? The missing link in our democracy has been the people. And trust me, the government derives its legitimacy from the people. Why are we all over the place today saying that the current president elect, select? I must emphasize on that, because we, the citizens, didn't elect the current person who was announced as the president that won this election. The current INEC president select does not have the legitimacy of the people. So that is something that they would have to really think about. And we can rightly hear again, Senator Ireti helping us to understand the importance of this 25% before anybody can be declared the winner of elections in Nigeria. So we can clearly see that he indeed isn't the president of anyone who went out there to vote for the candidates of their choice. What is the function of a legislature in a democracy? We're told that in democracy, there are three arms of government and they all perform different functions. The executive, the legislature, and then the judiciary. And let me tell you guys something. The democracy, the government in a democracy derives also its full legitimacy again from the legislature, because the legislature is the representative of the people, is where you and I are represented, down to the wards, to the local governments. That is why elections are held all across the world, to choose people that we are sending to the National Assembly to come and represent us, to represent our interests, to represent all of the things that we want to be discussed and deliberated at the center. So the legislature plays a very powerful role in democracy. That's why when military coups happen in everywhere, the first thing you hear them say is we are suspending the constitution. And by doing so, when they suspend your constitution, it means your legislative arm of government ceases to exist, because the legitimacy of democracy derives its power fully and functions from the legislative arm of government. And I tell you, they are even more powerful than the executive, because this is one arm of government that is saddled even with the power to impeach. You and I can't impeach a president, but the legislature is empowered constitutionally to remove a sitting president. That's to tell you how powerful the legislature is. We run a bicameral legislature in Nigeria, which is the lower house and the upper house. The lower house has 360 representatives. The upper house has 109 senators. Then all across the states also, we have state assemblies, where also they choose their speakers. The only thing we don't have at the state level is like the Senate, where we have only at the center. So we can clearly see, and what are the functions of this legislature that we sometimes think, oh, they don't matter, and we're all focused on only the executive. Guys, they are the ones who are saddled with the responsibility of making laws of the country, policies, whether it is health policies. Recently, I'm sure you all are aware of the member that comes from one of these local governments in Lagos. There's no way I can remember the name of a person who is clearly not responsible and alive to his duties. So I really can't remember his name, and I don't feel anything towards that. Who stood up to present a bill on the floor of the House to demand that doctors cannot leave Nigeria until they offer Nigeria 5 years of their service and everything. Imagine sending your child to school, paying their school fees, sending them through all these medical processes. And in short, if they're even in the Nigerian universities, instead of spending 5 or 6 years, they'll end up spending 10 or 12 years, because you have to add ASU strike in your calculation. Then your child now goes all the way to graduate after all these 10 years of frustration. And then after they now become doctors, then your country tells them, no, wherever you want to go to expand your career, to do well for yourself, you cannot, because you have to give your country 5 years. Damn it. Like, just imagine that kind of a proposal that someone stood up. People who don't even patronize the Nigerian hospitals, the Nigerian healthcare sector, people who don't patronize the educational sector, people who do not patronize anything that is made in Nigeria are standing to propose such laws. So you can see the importance of what this legislative arm of government plays in our lives. They are in charge of budgets. Since the coming of democracy, inception of democracy, you and I have heard several times how budgets have been prepared in this country. It is like just going into your kitchen and they're putting rice, water, Maggi, salt all at the same time, and they're turning on the gas fire, and that's it. It cooks and it's done. That's how our budget is prepared. No critical thinking goes into the preparation of our budget. No data analysis. None of those things are considered. This arm of government is who is saddled with that responsibility. So can you see why we have paid a huge price? Because as citizens also, we've abdicated in our responsibilities of putting pressure and demanding and staying on the issues of the legislative arm of government. They are in charge of ratifying treaties. They are in charge of confirming appointments, both good and bad appointments. This particular National Assembly, the legislative arm of government, is who is saddled with this responsibility. And you can clearly also see what the price we have paid, because we also didn't place priorities on this legislative arm of government. Because when the president comes up with the list, whether he has rogues on the list, criminals on the list, people who steal elections on the list, whatever it is, or whoever they represent, when they are brought to that floor, when they say the ayes have it, that is it, guys. This arm of government is saddled with such a huge responsibility. And over the years, you and I can count with our fingers how many responsible people have been appointed into office. Little or no wonder we are where we are today. We once had a deputy Senate president who actually stole the mace while a sitting was happening. He became a deputy Senate president. Today we have a president who was once a Senate president behind bars in the UK. The people who are vying to be Senate presidents today from all the parts of Nigeria, be it from the east, west, south, north, go and check their records. A lot of them are criminals. A lot of them have cases. A lot of them have gone to court. A lot of them have gone to jails. Guys, this is what we have. We have a hostile situation. We've been taken hostage and like we're in bondage. And we must free ourselves from it, because that house is called the hallowed chamber. Go and check the meaning of hallowed. It is called the hallowed chamber for a reason. The people who are saddled with the responsibility of ensuring that society benefits from its act of lawmaking, policy making, and quality representation is filled with criminals and rogues. That is what we have in the National Assembly, except for the National Assembly that is coming in this 2023. And this is why we as a people, our role as citizens is to stay woke. You can see now your demand for accountability, just your few months of demand for accountability. Can you see how much labels, how much names you've been called? You've been called rude. You've been called disobedient. You've been called unruly. You've been called this. Wear those names with pride. Those are names that they are calling you just so they label you and make you feel bad about yourselves. No, you have finally woken up to your primary responsibility as citizens. And for anyone who is not ready to take the heat from citizens, best they put in their resignation now, because citizens will bring the fire on. We will not turn off the fire. There will be no fire extinguisher that will extinguish it. Our demand for accountability and transparency must be 24 hours, because the people who are plotting, people who are planning, who are writing these policies and laws on our behalf are irresponsible and do not wish us any good. Like I said, except for the few ones we have who are going into the new National Assembly come May 29th. So we have our work cut out for us. Our country cannot grow beyond the quality of the leaders or the rulers that we have in power. Go and read the vision of the book that Al Maktoum wrote, The Vision. You will see it there. The quality of representation matters. So we, the citizens, we must stay awake. We must follow every act of our representatives. When they come back home, when they are doing all those constituency meetings, show up. Don't stay away. Get their emails, get their phone numbers. They are not private citizens anymore. Their phone numbers we must demand each and every one of them must make their phone numbers public. They must make their email addresses public so we can reach them. We can have access to them. We can come and knock on their doors. We can walk into that National Assembly, protest, make demands. This is the time, because we are taking back our country, and it is only the citizens that are empowered in section 38, 39, 40, and 41, freedom of expression, freedom to express ourselves, freedom of thought, freedom of movement, freedom of association. It is there in the Constitution. It is our sole right. So whoever is not ready for citizens to come make demands, whether by land, air, or sea, should not even bother to get into that office, because we will ensure that Nigeria and the representations that we have in the National Assembly begin to understand that we now know what our roles are as citizens. And our roles is to constantly ensure that we do not allow them get away with policies that would never be of any benefit to each and every one of us, because they are there to represent us, and indeed represent us they must. They must make laws that all of us will be binding on all of us, including themselves and their children. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Maureen Kabrick. It's always a pleasure listening to you, and the words that drop from your mouth are just like, words on marble. Thank you so much. And that's one of the things we almost understand as citizens. The National Assembly, members of the legislative, and both National Assembly and the state houses of state houses of assembly, we normally overlook them, and they play such an important role. People talk about constitution. They want a new constitution. They want this. They want that. It's the legislative arm that can only give you a new constitution, and they can do it without the president, without the executive. They have the power to do that. You want people who get, and in talking about those appointments, I was like, oh, wow, that's one part we actually do forget. A lot of the confirmation that go on, see what we have at the INEC, where a lot of people who are partisan, who belong to APC, actually got in, becoming rec. I knew there were so many people who were talking about it at that time, so many organizations, but the critical number was not enough for us to get the National Assembly not to ensure that their appointment is confirmed. And then you have certain sensitive positions where you have people who are partisan, people who are not competent, people, some of them are even criminal, getting into office. It's a major thing. And these are some of the things that we need to watch out for. Please, for those of us who are listening, both here on Zoom and also on YouTube, please send in your questions. If you want to speak, if you're on Zoom, if you need to speak, you need to be on Zoom, raise up your hand, and then you can also send in your question, write it down. We checking them and reading it out to our guests. I'll come back to Senator-elect Ireti and ask the question on bills. What kind of bills are you going to sponsor? You've been on this for a while, and it's something that is dear to you. You see the changes that you want to see. What are the kind of bills that we would be expecting from you, and also how accessible are you going to be while in office, so that if citizens have certain concerns, they are able to reach out to you and sit down, and not the one that like other places where it takes 4 years before you now see their senators again coming in. How accessible also are you going to be? Thank you so much. Go ahead.
Thank you, Aisha. First of all, I would like to say that I'm honored that Maureen thinks that I'm worthy to be called distinguished. I have shared her feelings so many times about so many, many people. So I'm honored that she thinks that. That's number one. Number two, for years and years and years, I have always preached more to younger people to tell them that this is your country, this future that you're not paying attention to is your future. And I am glad, as the young people say, they are now woke. Secondly, I feel that the legislators must be held accountable. Not just accountable, but I should know what the people of the FCT feel about everything. So I have created an interactive platform. I have a website where people can go and register, and I'm targeting 1 million FCT residents. So let us say a bill is going to take 5 days. They give it to us. By the third day, I should have bullet points on my website telling you that this bill that we're going to debate in the House, these are the real issues. And you can tell me what you feel about it. So when I go to the House and say aye or nay, you know that I am not saying what Ireti Kingibe feels, but what the FCT residents who have bothered to get involved have said. I am reflecting when they say we the people are us that are there, because the people are not directly in the National Assembly. So there has to be interactive sessions between their representatives and the actual we the people, so that when we get there, what we are saying, what I am saying, will reflect what the people of the FCT. Secondly, I will ask the people of the FCT, after 2 years, they can give me a report card, which I think is necessary. The same people on my website, Haja, you can improve on this. Or this part is fine. I have issues over this. How do you suggest we go about it? So I don't intend to do this without the people. I intend to work closely with them. And that is why all my programs, all my projects, I am working with the people of the FCT. When I say my project is Clean Up Abuja, I mean that I want 10,000 people, if I can get them in each ward, everybody clean up your area. And to incentivize them, because a lot of young people who are hardworking, they probably don't have the money. I will give you data for you taking time, 5 hours a week to do certain things. And in that way, it is going to be that we're doing this together. So a lot of the things that I will go to the House and say, this happened, that happened. Ireti Kingibe did not say it. The people of the FCT, the majority of them, that is what they feel. That's number one. And already, I'm not sure that I have the links, but I know that the bulk of the websites are up and running. But I didn't want to launch them until I've been inaugurated, which is only right. Secondly, the bills I'm interested in. FCT doesn't have water. I need to know why. Water is not a necessity. It's not a luxury, it's a necessity. And the truth of the matter is that, except for the elite areas, the bulk of the FCT doesn't have water. Lower Usuma Dam, as well as Jabi Dam, they were created to supply water to the FCT. What has held that up? I need to know why. If it requires appropriation, I will work on it. Whoever is minister must understand that this is key for the people of the FCT. Secondly, there are some bills I call housekeeping bills, like why are we not accessing in the FCT the same health funds as all the states? I'm told that there are certain policies that we need to have past that we haven't done so? Why are we not accessing the same educational funds? So those are some of the bills that I would first look at, because I want an improved health sector and an improved educational sector. Also, I'm trying to look at how, through legislation, we can do mass housing. Now, how do we do that? You know, when I was in Lagos, they had this law where you cannot have more than one C of O in any particular development or area. So where situations are where you find that Ireti Kingibe has a house in Maitama, when they build mass housing in Kubwa, she goes and buys 10, another person buys 20. That cannot happen if such bills, if such laws are there. I can't stop you if you have money from going to buy one, but you definitely cannot buy 10 and 20 to start renting it out to the people that they were actually built for. And I want to look at how we can pass through legislation, and some of it in FCT does not have to be through legislation, because the senator works very closely with the minister. It could also be just in tandem with the minister to get certain things done. He wants some things done. I want certain people issues resolved. I have seen many senators who do that. For instance, I know senators in the past, when a minister wants to demolish an area, they'll tell him, sorry, you cannot demolish it unless you do A, B, C, D, E. And when you do them, then you can demolish the area. So I intend to work very closely, because the senator is the person that is accountable to the people. The minister is not. So the minister is free to do whatever he feels he wants to do. But the senator is the one who's going to ensure that certain things do not happen because the people need it, or certain things do happen because the people need it. Now, I want to draw your attention, as Maureen has said, for good governance, the people, the citizens need to be as aware as the leaders, meaning that if you don't hold anybody accountable, for instance, there's an issue that's bothering me right now, and I feel that most citizens probably do not want it to happen, but nobody is saying anything. Nobody is putting pressure on their legislators to say, why are we spending money we do not have for a census that we do not need? We can estimate our population from NIN, BVN, driving licenses, passports, and a myriad other things that they look for our biometrics. Why do we need to spend almost $1 trillion to have a census when so much of our territory is occupied? It doesn't make sense to me. And I felt I'm rather disappointed, because I expected the citizens to make more of a fuss about it, enough of a fuss that is something that we can actually stop. But if they're not saying anything, and that's what I mean when Maureen says that the people, the citizens must be involved, they must be aware. The thought of all that money being spent for something that is so unnecessary really, really pains me, especially since we are in so much debt. Why do we need to have a census? So, Aisha, I intend to look at everything on all the boards I've ever served on. I have read every document that I have been given before I've ever sat down to talk. So every little thing that's in there, there's none that gets past me, because I feel if I can't do it, then I don't even bother. But if I'm going to do it, then I must do it well. And I intend to work with all of you, hopefully, to assist us and me in ensuring that things get done properly.
Thank you so much, Senator-elect Ireti Kingibe. It's really, thank you. You said, one of the things you said, I'll come to that much later. And the minister is not accountable to the people, which is so true. And the senator also does not have executive powers. We need to really look on the issue of having a mayor in Abuja.
Yes, but something. The one singular senator may not have executive powers, but he does have a lot of tacit ones because of the fact that the Senate runs Abuja through the minister. Okay. And the senator is the link between the minister and the Senate.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So in FCT is somewhat different from other senators.
Okay.
You can get a lot done as the Senate. That's why I said that the senator has legislative powers as well as tacit executive ones.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much for that clarification. I'll come to Deko Suleiman. Can you go ahead and unmute yourself? Let's get your question. You have 2 minutes, please. After that, we have, is that Florence and then Dennis? Thank you, Deko.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, okay. We can hear you.
Good evening, able Senator-elect. My questions are very brief and concise. Within the FCT, you could see like in local communities, in Kwali Area Council, Abaji Area Council, and some parts of Wagwalada Area Council, they are highly agrarian communities. What legislative framework are you going to put in place to see that the farmers in those communities can actually access federal government benefits like other farmers in other states across the federation? Then my second question is the issue that I've had this issue of explaining or argue with my friends between a non-indigenous being a senator and, you know, now how do you intend to balance it up with the indigenous within the FCT?
I didn't hear that question.
Can you come again with the second question? The second question.
I heard the first one. I didn't hear the second question.
Okay, the second one. How do you intend to balance? How do you intend to align the indigenous? There's this dichotomy now that exists because of your candidacy that, oh, okay, she's a non-indigenous, she won't be able to carry everybody along and all of that. So how do you intend to carry everybody on board to see that we have a very, very strong and united FCT? And thirdly, my other question is, allegedly there were some information that the outgoing Senator Aduda did not actually fill in some board positions and some in some federal parastatals, and he was collecting the monies. He didn't actually put in people that will work in those boards and commissioners from the FCT. So now, if you get there in June, so how do you intend to end most of those things? Then my last question is as regards the mayoral status of FCT. FCT deserves a mayor, you know. So what legislative framework are you going to put in place to ensure that at least we have a mayor in the FCT, and probably we have a minister that, even if it's not from the FCT, there should be a form of legislative framework that at least the minister of FCT should have resided in the FCT for at least 10 to 15 years. So we cannot afford to have another minister from another state. So these are just my questions.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for those questions. I think because these questions are quite packed, I will go ahead to answer before we take in the next one. Go ahead.
Okay. I can't remember your first question, but your second question. I have to tell you that if you ask most people in the FCT, they would tell you that the best senator they ever had was the senator that was from 1999 to 2003. She wasn't an indigenous, neither was the second one, who all those ones were very strong senators who checkmated the minister on the well-being of the FCT people. Now, we've had two, maybe we had Senator Wowo for a short while, but at the end of the day, FCT belongs to everybody. There was never a time when the positions were kept just for any particular tribe. the person that most people, part of the reason why I got a lot of votes and I've gotten a lot of support from the indigenous people of the FCT is because of the fact that they also go on and tell you how they benefited so much from the female senator because she was kind and compassionate and she kept their issues in view. So, and at the end of the day, the problems of the indigents and the non-indigents are pretty much the same. Everybody wants good representation. So as long as I attend to the issues, I think that there should be no problem between the indigents and the non-indigents. Now, the reality of the issue is that you have, FCT has grown and it's one of the fastest growing cities in the world. There's a large number, if you put together the Igbos, the Hausas, the Yorubas, they are a big population of the FCT. Then you have also several indigenous tribes that are not necessarily Bagis. Bagis are one of those indigenous tribes. Everybody's interest will be carried along as long as they get good governance. So what I'm trying to say to you is that in a democracy, the will of the people will prevail. The truth of the matter is that in a place where you have more indigenous people, like Abaji, Kwali, Gwagwalada, and even Kuje, you can probably get, even in the democratic process, an indigenous House of Rep member. But in the place where there are other people, it's open to who everybody feels will represent them well. Now, most of FCT is agrarian. The 4 local governments in Abuja South, as well as Buhari, the only place that's not really agrarian is Amak. And it has been one of my, even when I was not running, I was one of those unpaid consultants for the Minister of Agriculture from 2015, I think it was from 2015 to 2019. Now, part of the reason for that is because I feel that FCT people will benefit from agriculture. Of course, certain things I did not have the power to do because I did not have a position. I was just a busybody, and I tried to get the minister to get us involved in the Anchor Borrower scheme. He said he would do, but he never did. But as the senator, I have spoken to the certain institutions that have mapped and have got information for agriculture and the farms, adding to the fact that I will also get more. Based on that, I will personally stand and go to the CBN and ensure that and that is how governors get it, except that we don't have a governor. But I can make sure that we get the Anchor Borrower scheme. One, I feel it will empower the people of the FCT. I've already started looking at some of the programs of getting machines for cassava processing in Kwali. They have lots of places where the women do that, but they do it by hand. And I have seen some locally produced machines that we can give to them. So I've already started looking into that. There's quite a bit of funding for the zonal intervention projects, which they call constituency projects. So I've started looking into them so that when I'm inaugurated, I will hit the ground running. What was the third thing you asked me about? I will work I have a good relationship with a lot of the chiefs who are chiefs to the different indigenous areas. So, and as for what Senator Aduda did or didn't do, it doesn't matter now. He has given us his best. Yeah. And is moving on. And I will continue where he left off. I obviously will bring everything to the table. I intend to have a senatorial advisory council that will advise me on what to do, that will also, that I can also report back to, that will be made up of stakeholders. I believe that the more people, I don't believe in micromanaging everything. And the more people you give responsibility to, the more successful you will be. So I hope that I have answered most of your questions. If there's anyone I've left out, if you remind me, I'll be glad to answer it.
Thank you so much for that. There's a question on the agrarian community. Okay, I think you've answered that one.
Yes,
oh yeah, you have.
One of my
that was the first one.
Biggest projects.
Okay.
Ensuring that FCT farms get. I've also started talking to off-takers, people like Dufil Foods that buy corn, those that buy soya, so we would know ahead of time what the farms are going to do. I've also started talking to places where they can get fingerlings for fisheries, smokers for the women. I am every kobo that I can lay my hand on is going to go to the FCT in terms of empowerment, which is primarily agriculture and agro-processing.
Okay, thank you so much. Deco, no, can't have that.
No,
You've already spoken. No,
did you forget something? Did I not answer something, Deco? You can remind me.
No, so
no, as regards the mayoral and status of FCT.
Well, the first senator who wrote that bill was the one from 1999 to 2003. So that bill has been there since. Every senator, depending on their commitment to the bill, has worked on it to some extent. I will do my best. I think that being a woman, if she had had more time, she may have gotten it done. I think the first place to start with that bill is getting a president to accept, to relinquish FCT. Because you see, they use FCT as, I don't like to say patronage. So if the president agrees that it does not subtract from him in any way, it will be easier to get the Senate and the House to pass the bill. That's one of the things. Then secondly, there's another thing you mentioned. I'm definitely going to do my best. Now, the ministers are the prerogative of the president, as long as they reflect federal character. We can only coax a president into taking a minister from the FCT as putting it under North Central. Where there is a problem is if you insist that that minister from that FCT must come from a particular tribe. That's why we haven't been getting it. If you just insist that pick somebody who's from the FCT, who has lived here, who knows here, who's involved in the FCT, who the people know, I think that once the door is open, it is open. I know many things we did not have before. Once we got it once, it then becomes ours. So that is the key issue. In terms of concessions to indigenous people, I've discussed with some young indigenous people during the campaigns. We're looking at scholarship in terms of, one of them said education was a challenge, and in terms of the funding and things like that, scholarship fund for indigenous people, tourist village. But the truth is that it has to reflect all the indigenous people of the FCT. And you must agree with that. Now, I also believe that mandate secretaries can be zoned, but the secretaries must come from within the FCT. If you say you zoned it to the Southwest, you can find many Southwesterners who have lived here all their lives. When you give agriculture to somebody who's come from another place, he doesn't know Kwali different from Kuje. How is he going to be an effective mandate secretary? So those are some of the issues that can be discussed with the minister. Since they are not things you can legislate, they are things that you can work through and agree and accept. They were not in the constitution to begin with, so you can discuss them.
Thank you so much.
I answered your question.
Well, yeah, that's good enough. We need to, there are some hands up and we have like 29 minutes more to go. And we also have questions. So what will happen, we just quickly go through the questions from Flores, Dennis, and Bassi, starting with Flores. Please unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question within the 2 minutes that you have. I'll just note those questions that also we'll take them up before we begin to answer them. Flores, can you unmute yourself, please? Yeah, go ahead.
Hello, good evening, Ma. Good evening, Auntie Aisha.
Good evening.
Distinguished Mommy Ireti, Auntie Maureen. Good evening, everybody online.
Good evening.
Congratulations, distinguished Mommy Ireti, and a very big thank you to the host of this meeting today. I am not speaking from FCT, but when I heard Mommy is coming online and from Auntie Aisha, I had to join. And honestly speaking, I've learned so much. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
But mine is just an appeal to Mommy Ireti, that she should be ready to join hands with Auntie Aisha and host of others to build other women, most especially because of the ideology to make Nigeria a better place. There are so many women out there who are ready, but they don't know how to go about it. So meetings like this should come up often, where a lot of men and women, we join and listen to people like, Mommy Ireti speaking. It will give them hope and encouragement that there's going to be a better Nigeria someday. And then I also want to appeal to her that of all of her primary functions, I am most particular about the oversight functions, so as to check the excesses of not only the executive, even the judiciary sometimes, when they are being manipulated by, the executive. So I think it's basically the legislature that can check all of these excesses, and that is the reason for imputing the oversight function as one of their functions in the Constitution, as provided by the Constitution. So that's basically my own contributions. Thank you so much again to the host and to the organizers. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much for your question. I'm doing that within the 2 minutes allotted. Dennis, please kindly unmute yourself and go ahead with your question, please.
Good evening and congratulations the same time, Senator-elect.
Thank you.
Senator Kinjibe. Particularly, my one greetings also goes to Aisha Yesufu. Thanks for the good work that you are doing.
Thank you.
That great lady, Maureen Kabrick. So I love the energy. Keep it up. So mine is more of a charge play at the same time. I'm based in Germany. I'm doing my master's. So one of the things that endeared me to His Excellency Peter Obi was the value that man is. So in that light, I just want to make a plea, because there is this unwritten statements that people usually make that everybody has a price in Nigeria. So I just want to beg that there are so many people who they are on the lookout. They are beaming their searchlights on the Labour Party elected men and women. So because what some of them have been saying is that they are going to be swallowed up by the same corruption that have become endemic in the other established parties. So I just want to beg, but we are looking up to you people that have been newly elected. So we don't want a situation where all that have swallowed up Nigeria, that you people will also join the bandwagon. So we just want you people to be different, irrespective of the corruption. I know definitely these things will come running after you once you are sworn in, so they will bring their money. So just try and imbibe of His Excellency Peter Obi, because even we are here in the diaspora, we also they look at that someday they likely come to also come and be a part in the process of our nation. So I just want to charge you and to make it clear at the same time, I should not join them in the corruption. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dennis, for that. Basi, can you go ahead, please? After Basi, we answer the question, ma'am. Hello, Basi. Can you kindly unmute yourself and go ahead with your question?
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Aisha. Thank you, Auntie Ireti. I just wanted to thank you for setting up this interactive session. Two things I wanted to talk about. The first one is about data. I think most of the issue that I found, especially in the Buhari administration, was that when they were coming in and they had so many promises about how what they wanted to do and everything, but I don't think they understand the issues on the ground, because at the end of the day, they will tell you they did a lot of things, but so many people were not affected. You've talked about water projects and everything, but do you have enough data or data to support some of this project that you're embarking on and everything? So that and the reason is so that they are measurable in the terms of maybe after 2 years. You're saying, no, after 2 years there should be a scorecard. But if we don't have what is on ground, we won't know how to measure your performance. So I think maybe I'm just saying is that maybe you should put a team together to actually be on ground, to actually know how many people, like for instance, how many kids are out of school, how many infant mortality we have in terms of healthcare, in terms of so that we can actually say, oh, this is what I've been able to achieve. That's one. Secondly, also we know that there are some times when you are out there in the Senate to actually push a particular bill, there'll be some resistance and everything. I think what Nigerians are upset with the APC issue, administration, is that there's no feedback, there's no accountability, there's no response on, okay, why was this not done? In terms of, let me say, for instance, you say, oh, I'm going to work on water and everything. If after 2 years or 4 years, it wasn't done, we don't need to wait until the end of 4 years to find out, oh, this was the reason why. Or sometimes they even keep quiet and decide, I don't have to tell you anything. But I don't know if there's a system in place to always update the masses or everybody on what is going on and how resistance or any issue that you have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Basi, for that. I have the questions written down if you need me to read out some of them.
One of the things I want to say is that this 10th Assembly has about, I would say, 77, 78 new senators, brand new, who are coming into the Senate for the first time. We've had meetings as new senators because, like we told each other, we are trying to put party interest and personal interest aside and put national interest and people interest. Remember, we have just come from the streets. We know how bad things are. And the last time I talked to my colleagues, I said, well, we had NSAS before. The next time we have an uprising, it will be NNAS, because the truth is that we are the direct representatives of the people. So I think that most of us new senators are a bit more aware that things cannot be business as usual. Secondly, I'm an engineer by profession. I work with facts. So already I've started collecting data on how many farms do we actually have? What are their GPS locations? There are certain institutes like the Tony Blair Institute, a few institutes that have some data, not all of it, which hopefully they'll be willing to share. And then we will build on that. Because the only way I can actually go and say, I want X amount, this is the number of farms that I'm looking for intervention funding for, I have to have the data. I want to know how many school children we have in the schools. How many schools do we have? So a person that cannot work blind, I need facts. So that is there. Then thirdly, I also believe that certain things I checked, I don't have access to it yet. When I'm inaugurated, I will have access to it. The Ministry of Water Resources has several times put in the plan for this water project for the FCT. The fact that it has not been anybody's priority before now is not their fault. funding has not been made available, I will look at what they have and see how it can be implemented. Thirdly, I've also planned on having town hall meetings every quarter. So in the town hall meetings, I can tell you how far I have gone, where I'm having problems. You too can also update me on the problems we have in the community. A lot of my projects, I have all these projects, I call them Through Hope projects, because they're community-based. They're all based in the ward. If I'm doing Orange Aloud, I can't know what's happening in everybody's ward. So I will have people I call True Hope Orange Aloud marshals, who is their responsibility. I've already started getting funding from the United Nations. They told me before the elections that if I did win, they had certain funds for certain things. And there's funding for a lot of things. It's just that they're not funds that are available to be chopped. So lots of people may not be interested in them, but I am interested in them. At my age, I'm not looking to get anything that I don't already have. I'm trying for us to build a better FCT. My children were born here, grew up here, and this is home for them. And I want this place to improve. I want to do my bit. And I know that people like Aisha are available to me, and Maureen. I intend to work with a lot of women. In the Labour Party, in a few months, we're probably going to have congresses where I've already started trying to talk women into getting more involved in the party structure. That's one of the things I found appealing about the Labour Party. And I told myself that even if I did not become the senator, Labour did not win FCT, I still have that structure in which we can use it to show that politics can be fair, politics can have equity, we can build an egalitarian society, at least within the party, where we obey the rules. So I'm targeting in 2025, I think we'll have local government elections in the FCT. I'm trying to see that from the bottom up, that we can have 25 to 30 councillors out of 62. I know some men are shouting, it's too much, but it's not. And if women can get involved, after all, men do it. They mentor the women. I intend to do the same. That is what a lot of women, the older women can mentor the younger ones, show them the ropes, show them how. I assure you, I could never have been as successful in politics if I had not had a good mentor. And I intend to do the same for a lot of younger women. I tried before, but obviously I can do more as a senator. I could only pay their forms. I couldn't force the party to do many, many things that now I can input. My input there can be more in terms of ensuring that women have more of a place. And the other thing that I think as women we can bring up again, recently when one of the senators was talking to me, he said, Madam, it's really embarrassing. Only 3 female senators out of 109. I said, well, you are embarrassed. What do you? He said, Madam, as a nation, we're embarrassed. So I said to him, so what do you think we should do? He said, it's mandatory now that we have legislation for that 35%. In that case, the parties have to now know how that it is the law. Before, we used to have delegates and they would just throw it open. They would be all men. From the moment the party said one of those delegates must be female, then it meant that when you bring out 3 delegates, however you did the election, you had to have voted one, a woman. So those are some of the things we need to do, and we can do them in Labour. At least we can use Labour as a template, as a pilot, something that other parties can emulate. Have I answered?
Thank you so much. I think you've answered that, not just answered that, but also took away the thoughts. As you were speaking, I was just looking at the file, I was just thinking of Labour Party, even when it comes to how do you put it, candidates, even for example, like senatorial candidate, you can say no one gender should have more than 2. So that at least you have one. If you have 2 men, you must have 1 woman. If you have 2 women, you must have 1 man. That kind of a thing. And it starts from the parties, and we can build from that to go on. leadership. We need everyone on hand, on deck. What we have right now, fortunately, is that we are sort of like using one leg only to run, and that's not too good for our nation. Thank you so much. We are really fast approaching the end of this this session. I will call on Dudu, please. Dudu, can you kindly read out some of the questions that we have? Because we have a question here from Amy, and then we'll come back to our guest. Hello, Dudu. Okay, if Dudu is not well with us, we have a question from Amy. She said, thanks for your time. Do you plan? Okay, go ahead.
No, you go on.
No, go ahead and read it.
Okay. So on Zoom, Emmy says, I'm a physician in diaspora. I did my internship in UATH, Guabalada, years ago. And it sounds terrible to try to trap our colleagues in Nigeria. What are your plans for diasporans, especially as it relates allowing us to vote and giving us a say in the affairs of Nigeria? Thank you.
Okay, so that's one question. Go ahead. What's the other one? So that's diaspora voting.
Okay, so I should read more?
Yes, let's take all the questions. And
okay. Okay, so someone asked on YouTube, Jeremiah Nwake, he says he commends your initiative for constituency engagement using a website. Nevertheless, how do you intend to carry along those who do not have such access to the internet? That will be it. Okay, then Emmy also asked, thanks for your time, she says. Do you plan to challenge the enormous amount of money senators receive as salaries and illegal allowances and diversion of funds in the various dubious committees, and rather channel those funds into achieving these visions you have for the youth? Thank you. That will be all for now.
Should I answer?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay. I believe that diasporans are Nigerians and they should be allowed to vote. And I'm sure there are other people in the National Assembly who believe the same way. It is also one of the bills that I would like to bring forth because they are Nigerians, and Nigerians should be able to vote wherever they are. But we need to improve on our electoral process a little bit more before it will be possible and not and it cannot be tampered with. So that's what I'm going to say about that. Now, for my constituents who are not on the internet, I have town hall meetings. As I said, I will have about 4 every year. And also, I will interact more with the people. I always did anyway. Even when I wasn't a senator, I would go, things are happening, I would go to a particular place, visit there, talk to different people. But that's the best that I can do, would be town hall meetings. That means you can physically talk to me. I also will have a constituency office where for certain times of the specific day of the week, between certain times, I'm there. So I'm also available to be spoken to. I have also aides and people can call on the phone. I get a lot of phone calls from people. Obviously, I cannot respond to all of them, but because I get by the time I finish this Zoom call, when I go, I probably have 100 missed calls on my phone. So I try to call back as many people as I can. I respond to text messages. So those are the only ways that I can interact with those that are not online. But I'm talking primarily to the youth. A lot of them are online. And as I said, my older voters are on radio and television, which was how I was able to contact and campaign to them when I was campaigning. Can you remind me of the third question? Hello? Okay, I know what it is.
Hello, okay.
Already, I already pledged that I don't know what the basic salary of a senator is. I already pledged my basic salary to a sort of emergency fund for the FCT. I said I will keep the allowances because obviously there would be things to run and things like that. Now, I have sat down and given thought to the moral dilemma of I'm a people person. I'm a pragmatist. I don't believe that I alone can stop all the big money from flying around. But I thought about it recently when there was talk flying around that one of the people who wanted to be Senate president was going to give the senator $1 million. So I sat down and reflected and said, okay, Ritty, what are you going to do about that? Will you take the $1 million? Will you leave it? And if you take it, what will you do? I decided that any monies that I feel is not right, illegally gotten, however, I will not refuse it. I will bring it back to my constituency. I will tell them that we were given X, Y, and Z for so thing, and I think we can put it in so fund and do X, Y, and Z for the people. It doesn't make sense. I alone cannot change things, but I can have my constituency benefit from all those things. A day will come when we will slowly evolve to the point where we will understand that I don't think that the structure we have for our National Assembly, I feel it can be improved upon. I don't think it should be for 6 months of the year and 3 days a week. It can be structured differently, but I'm not going to tell you that I alone can change that. No, but I will try to get my constituency to benefit from whatever these things are. And I hope I have honestly answered your question.
Thank you so much. Just to follow up on that question, on the answer to the question you just gave. So the thing with it is this: if you, for example, if you collect the money, and yes, it's used for the constituency, what then happens to the thing that needs to be done, which will end up being a disservice to the constituency? So let me give you an example. For example, someone who is not capable or who shouldn't even be, for example, a Senate president. Now,
no, I won't vote for him.
Oh, okay.
I will not take him and I won't vote for him. I'm sorry. I will not vote for him. If it's something you're giving to everybody, that's a different matter. But I assure you, even if it's only my vote alone, I will not vote for rogues and robbers. And if everybody is one, I will vote for the person with the least baggage.
Thank you so much. I needed to hear that clarification so that we don't leave here and people are thinking that, oh God, so it's not going to be easy, but it's something that as we go on, and that is where citizens actually need to be very, how do I put it, to be very vigilant and to participate and check what are the things that are happening. One of the laws that has been very difficult to pass, although we've not really worked, is how do we get to recall legislative members. Right now, what we have is 50% of the registered voters, and we know that registered voters, basically most of them don't even exist. We had situations where people were just registering anyhow. How do we get to a place where it is 50% of the number of votes that someone gets that actually will bring that person back? That is one of the ways that citizens can hold those who are voted into the legislative, accountable, and be able to say if someone isn't doing very well, we also can bring them back home. But beyond that also is to be vigilant, support the people, because most times what happens is that the people who go in there with good intention and then they are left on their own, and then you're battling this whole number of people who are corrupt, who want the corrupt system to continue. So as citizens, we must begin to be vigilant, support those that we know they are doing the right thing. And as we go little by little by little, we keep weeding out those who are not doing the right thing, and we keep voting in. Let's ensure wherever election is taking place, there are going to be a lot of by-elections. Sadly, I think someone has died recently, a member-elect. He hasn't hasn't gone in. So probably there might be election going on there. There are always elections that are coming up in different parts of the country. Let's focus and ensure that we are bringing in those people who we know are going to be there and be there for Nigeria, not for their selfish interests. And I love the part where Senator-elect talked about they, as new members who are coming for the first time to the National Assembly, especially to the Senate, are now working together and looking where she said, yeah, we came from the streets and we know what is in the streets. And we saw what happened with NSAS. The next might be NAS, and we don't want that to happen. And so if we begin to encourage them more and give them that incentive to only focus on the things that work for Nigeria, I think we're going to go a long way. I will quickly give the mic to Pas Osas before I call on. That will be the last question that we will be taking for today, because we have a few minutes to the end of this session. Pas Osas, please go ahead.
Hi everyone. Good day. Good afternoon from here. I just want to quickly ask a few questions, maybe just one. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. As a senator-elect, is there anywhere in the Constitution where it says if a matter is in court and that maybe, for example, I'm going to divert a little bit. If the matter is in court, maybe the person-elect should still be sworn in before that matter is resolved by the court, because in my own understanding right here, once a court decides to take a matter, all elected persons are suspended. They are not sworn in pending when the decision of the court. But if a court decides to throw out that issue, then those sworn in, those elected persons can be sworn in. Do you have any idea in regards to that? Thank you.
Well, actually, whoever has been declared the winner gets sworn in. If at a later point the court decides that that person didn't win, then they inform INEC, and then that they withdraw the certificate they've given to that person and they give it to a new person. But until a court says the declared winner is not the winner, everything continues with the people who have been declared by INEC as the winners.
Absolutely, that's it. Until there's a ruling that says that the person did not win, did not get the legal votes, or should not, like Senator-elect Atiku did say, then that person has to be sworn in. I think this has to do with
most of the legislators that have been declared winners, including me, that I have over 100,000 votes between the incumbent and myself. And even if you put everybody's votes together, it's not as much as mine. They're all in court. So if the courts were going to wait for everything to be resolved, then almost no senator, no House of Rep member is going to be sworn in. So INEC has declared the winners, and then the people who feel that they shouldn't have been declared go to court, and then the court decides you have a case or you don't have a case. Mm-hmm. And if they have a case, then the court will ask INEC to withdraw. And until even if the court declares that Atiku did not win this election, Atiku still can appeal. So until the final point where there's no further appeal, then they can then withdraw the person that INEC has declared. But until then, everybody that INEC has declared continues.
Thank you so much for that. Before we round up, coming back to Maureen Kabrik, most of the questions, and of course, the questions were directed to our senator-elect. What's your final word? What's the word of encouragement? What do you have to say to Nigerians on this whole issues, and how citizens should continue to participate, continue to focus, and not give up on Nigeria, and most especially where citizens are being told that they have no right to even have a voice? What do you have for them as we round up this session?
Okay, in final conclusion, please let me just add to what a lot of the other citizens put across to Senator Ireti. I'm happy to hear you speak about, mentoring a lot of women as you go along. That will really be helpful. It is very much needed at this critical point in time because we need to have a critical mass of women. We need to have a critical mass of women in the legislative arm of government and all across every government structure that we can afford to put women in there. That will be huge. Then please, one of the things I would really want you to look into when you get into office, when you are sworn in on May 29, is to please look at the activities of AEPB, the task force in Abuja and its operations. I don't have issues with enforcing laws, but where laws are not being enforced with a human face, then there is a problem. Because when people take on these powers onto themselves and act like they can go all out there and destroy people's businesses and make people run into the roads, oncoming vehicles, people have been killed, because they are running away from AEPB or from task force. The manners of that particular institution should be looked into. There is a civil and civilized way of enforcing laws, and Abuja cannot be different when it comes to that. Then also the menace of VIOs on Abuja roads, where every day you go out, you have your papers complete, you have your driver's license, yet on a daily, you can pass 88 checkpoints, stopping points of VIOs asking you the same questions, all because we do not value time. Time is not anything that Nigerians value. So you would come out from your house, you're heading to your office, and you're held up in hours and hours of traffic, all because VIO has mounted blocked roads and are demanding for the same thing every day. 24 hours when they are out working, they are demanding for the same thing. There must be a way where citizens can move around freely without all of this harassment. We travel out. We have some of us who are privileged, and these things do not happen in saner climes. Please look into these things when you get into office. And to citizens who are listening to this live interaction, I want to leave us with two quotes. Eternal vigilance is the price that we are going to pay for our liberty. Another quote I'm going to leave us with is never doubt, Margaret Mead, never doubt that a small committed group of committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, that is the only thing that ever has happened. All these other countries that we look up to, all these places that we wish we were like them, it is because their citizens have decided to stay committed to that task of demanding for accountability. No one is above us demanding accountability from. No one should tell you, your grandfather, that person you're demanding accountability from is old enough to be your grandfather. My grandfather is dead. And if he were to be alive and he were to contest for any office, I will make demands on him. If he didn't want people making demands on him, he should have stayed at home. So let nobody gaslight you and take your voice away from you. We must stand, just as MLK says, one has a moral responsibility to obey just laws, but one also has that moral responsibility to disobey unjust laws. So citizens, stay woke. My last words to you is for you all to know that Nigeria belongs to us all. And in the words of Aisha Yesufu, no Nigerian is more Nigerian than any Nigerian. Let nobody tell you that because of your religion, because of where you come from, that you do not have a voice, that you cannot make demands, that demands are made based on where you come from. No. Stay your ground. Stand your ground. It is well within our rights. We are well protected for as long as we protest and we protest peacefully. For as long as we make demands and we make demands peacefully, it is well within our rights. And we will continue to stay on the issues until we get the Nigeria that we all want, the Nigeria that we all wish to have, the Nigeria that we have said must work in our lifetime. And lastly, there was something I wanted to say to Auntie Rechi. I totally forgot. But I'm sure maybe before we end, if I remember, I would just come back and say it. It just keeps my memory because I felt it was something I should let her know. Okay, I work like in the agricultural sector, and I'm happy to hear you speak about farmers that you are so interested in. We work at Grand Square, and we have farmers who supply us products, and most of them come from Kuje, Kwali, and Buari. Some of them are no longer in the business. I should think if there's a place that farmers headers clash is underreported, is Abuja. Please look into it because a lot of our suppliers are no longer in business today because of this farmers headers clash that is happening in Abuja environments, but it is not being reported. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you, my dearest sister Aisha. I love you. I will always love you forever. Thank you for having me. And Nigeria must work in our lifetime. Stay woke, citizens. Nigeria is ours. Thank you. Love you all. And I wish you the very best, Senator Ireti. I wish you the very best. We'll be rooting for you and making demands from you at the same time.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate all the support you've given me. And I assure you, I will work very hard. I will not disappoint you. And
Amen.
the thing you're talking about, VIO and everything else, it boils down to one thing, corruption. Even the local government. The other day, I have a truck. It's not a commercial truck. I use it because of security. The AMAC entered the car. I have a video of them struggling with my driver steering wheel. Now, what can possibly... They showed him, the truck is in my name. I'm not commercial. It's not a truck. It's like
this Tucano...
a truck. I don't know
like
how to like a Hilux, kind of Honda.
Yeah.
Yes, and I wanted to go to the chairman to say, are you saying citizens cannot own one?
Yes.
It belongs to me. You could have had a crash with an injured or killed the people in my car. Why do you can stop them, but why jump into people's vehicle and try to take control of the steering wheel? So there's a lot we need to work on. We need to have conversations with the local government chairman. Businesses get extorted at every turn. I have a friend who has a bakery. They harass her for television license. Please, how many televisions do they watch in the bakery? Exactly. All this must stop. And all of this boils down to one thing, corruption. One thing only, corruption. They know that a lot of the things they're doing all illegal, but they still do it because there's no recourse. The same thing with INEC. How many INEC people have gone to jail? As long as there are no consequences in our society, then things will continue to be the way they are. We have to start having consequences for good and for bad. And that is one thing I want all the citizens that are listening to this to think about. It's not just about leadership. It's also about the citizens. When you get up you start your day, how many bad things do you do? How many times you break the law? Those things are important. And until you can hold yourself accountable, then you can hold other people accountable. And that's the place to start, is each one of us is with ourselves.
Thank you so much. There must be consequences for good or for bad. What we've had in Nigeria is that bad behavior are usually rewarded while good behavior are actually punished. When you want to do the right thing in Nigeria, it's always not you are mocked for actually doing the right thing. As we round up, there is something that is coming up. I've gotten there's some question. I did say it was the last question, but this one I think is something we need to take on right now. But before then, it's also to talk about like the Abuja is such a place where there are a lot of housing, but I think Abuja hasn't really made use of the fact that it has a lot of buildings in Abuja and a lot of houses. When it comes to this, what do they call ground rent that is being paid? I don't think Abuja collects as much of its ground rent as it should. And I'm talking from the point of someone who built houses, both for renting and also for sale. And in Abuja, it's a gold mine that needs to be tapped, and that needs to be looked into so that ground rates are, you find a situation whereby collecting your CFO is made almost impossible. You are asked to pay so much, go through so much. And so people stay without the CFOs, and then the state is losing. You have someone who owns a house for like 10, 15, 20 years. There's no CFO. And because getting a CFO, it's so difficult to get it. And then the state is losing from that. They can make getting CFO very, make it attractive so that people easily get it. And then the government also is able to earn money from it. That's part of the things that the Kaduna state did to be able to increase their internal generated revenue. I am one because I know I paid millions of naira to the Kaduna state government based on getting those CFOs and the grant rates that are being paid every day. And we can even use grant rates to support education. Public institution. That's what a lot of council do in abroad. In terms of every area, the houses are there, support the schools, support hospitals, and a whole lot of things. Take care of the area, take care of the park. In terms of sanitation, wastage, and all of that, these are things that can actually be done, and the government will be able to get money easily. You have estates that have hundreds of apartments. They are really not paying ground rent. Yes, there are a few that are paying, but most of them are not paying. These are some things that need to be done. In terms also of real estate, because that's where a lot of the corruption comes into in Abuja. And I'll tell you that there's a particular area in Abuja. It's called Umbora. If you go to one section of that Umbora, most of the CFOs are owned by people who are from Bauchi State. And I'm saying this thing now. Quote me anywhere. Anybody can take me to whatever. Aisha Yesufu is saying this. Most of them are owned by people from Bauchi State. Why? Because the FCT at that time was from Bauchi State. Some of them are people who know. Some of them don't even know. They use their names and whatever. But when you're looking for a land, you don't get it. The last time I applied, a few years ago, I think 2-3 years ago, I applied for a plot to build estate plot. I was told to bring 60 million naira as bribe. And I said, no, I'm not going to bring 60 million naira as bribe. Beyond, I've never bribed anyone in my life, and I'm not going to start with anything. That's why I don't do anything that has to do with government. I stay away from government. I do my own private business. Because for me, beyond even what the state say, my religion, the person who gives the bribe and the person who is taking the bribe, they both carry the same sin. But so an estate is where you want to build a house, and it's a low-income houses where if you get this land, it's either you build the house and it becomes cheaper for the people. And I'm speaking from experience. As someone who builds houses, it is cheaper for me to build more expensive houses than it is to build cheaper houses. Do you know why? Because the money I will use for the main bulk of building, it's the money that you pay for the services. And it's the same. Whether I'm building a Harmony Rise building or I'm building one small bungalow, the money I'm going to pay the plumber, the money I'm going to pay the person who is laying the block, they are all the same. So you find out that it's not attractive for you to build a 2-bedroom bungalow that people can easily buy, or 3-bedroom. It's better for me to go and build a much bigger, building. And so where you need the government to actually give this land to people who are genuinely going to build, because buildings are not as expensive as people make them out to be. Even when governments are building, they say, oh, low-income houses, it's quite expensive, and they don't even use the right materials. And so when you now want to build, they are giving you this whole things. You have to bribe people. You have to do all of that. These are things that need to be checkmate so that people will get those houses. And I totally agree with you in terms of where they build houses, one person will go and buy 20 houses. What's that? You don't even qualify to be. There should be a qualification of who is buying those houses. Not because I have the money, I will go and buy 20 houses and then start renting it. And meanwhile, the people who own those who are supposed to get those houses end up not getting it. Real estate, if Nigeria wants to fight corruption, they have to look into real estate. I'm a real estate, I'm into real estate. Business, they say, makes you rich. Real estate makes you wealthy. I've been building houses since the year 2007. I know that place is a cesspool of corruption, and a lot of monies are channeled through there. If we really want to, we need to begin to look at it. There are a lot of houses in Abuja where people are getting, build these houses. They make lands expensive. They hold on to it. They are not building, and then they build them. They don't even rent them out. It's exorbitant. Meanwhile, the person who actually builds their house with sweat, you can't wait to begin to either rent it out or put it in the market, because you need that your money back. There are a lot of people who, for them, it's just about cleaning the money, cleaning process. They just put them there and they just forget about them. The same way with a lot of businesses. You have a lot of businesses that are front. You see yourself, and I'm going to digress here a little bit. I think for me, because this is something that I'm frustrated about. Honestly, Senator Elect, we just got an approval, just I think day before yesterday, to build a particular house, 2 units of 2 bedroom, 6 units of 2 bedroom flats. It took us almost a year to get that approval. Why? Because you don't want to cut corners. What they want you to do is that they don't want you to get the approval. They don't want you to go through that route. They want you to go and start building so that they'll be coming and be collecting small bribe. They can come and collect small bribe. They can come and they will not check anything. That's why houses are falling left, right, and center. And so these are things that really need to be checked so that people who are doing the right thing are not frustrated when they continue to do all of this. But before, that's me ranting anyway. So please, apologies. So it's the part that taught me so frustrating.
It's legitimate, and I understand exactly what you mean.
So honestly, it's so frustrating when you keep wanting to do the right thing in Nigeria and then you keep getting that brick wall. But there's something that I would like you to talk about. I know you've spoken about it, but so that we clarify it before we go on, because I don't want anybody taking on this thing. So someone has said something on this issue of the monies, where someone has talked about, or what if people are sending the money and taking the legality of those monies. It's actually an issue that you might have a good intention of giving the constituency, having the money, but if it is something like a bribe or something, then it's an illegality to even think about taking. I know you did clarify it when you talk about that you will not vote for anyone who brings any of such, but I want it to be more clear so that people don't go away with such a notion behind them. And also to say, such money, of course, they should, if it's in a form of a bribe, it should be refused. Whistleblowing should happen on it. That's the accountability that you should hold other people. So I want you to just clarify on that before we round up.
No, some things, like I have not been in the National Assembly, so I can't tell you how things work. But people talk about huge allowances and all those sorts of things. Obviously, there are things that ab initio are given to everybody. Yes. Do you understand? They're not given to me alone for a specific service. I will not go to a place where I'm supposed to oversight and collect their money. Definitely. That is bribery and that is corruption. I will not do that. But there must be certain things, as you say, they give to everybody in the National Assembly. I feel, my personal opinion, that the National Assembly is overpaid. But when people ask me, am I going to go and change their salaries? I know I don't have the power to do that. I think that has to be done by Revenue and Mobilization, the agency I mean. So I know that there are certain things that are coming to us all as senators that I feel we don't have the moral right to. Mm-hmm. But if it's coming to everybody, then my share of it can go back to be used for a specific thing for my constituency. So it's the fact that you provided for 109 senators and Ireti Kingibe says she doesn't want her own, it's not going to change anything. You've already put it in our National Assembly budget. Am I making sense to you? But the way people go, I hear, I don't know, I have not been there, that some oversight committees don't oversight. They collect money from the organizations or the MBAs they are meant to oversight instead of doing the actual oversight. I assure you that in the FCT, especially the minister, if monies are appropriated for specific things for the FCT, I will ensure that I do the correct oversight and they are used for exactly what they were appropriated for.
Thank you so much. And I think that brings us to the end of today's session. You did hear it. So the money she's talking about is the general money paid to all the members and not maybe when someone is trying to bribe for one thing or the other. So thank you so much for that clarification. Thank you, Maureen Kabik, my sister. I love you so much for being here.
Love you more.
Thank you so much, Auntie Reti. I love you.
Thank you. I love you
Thank
too.
you for having us.
Thank you.
It's amazing. And one of the things that we assure you that we go follow you, and Timmy will tell you, about this my glasses. That if you do anyhow, you go see anyhow. We not send. You man not say, we
follow for nothing. They let them drink water. You know, one of the reasons that they asked the senator of FCT to look for me, I used to write to the Senate to complain about why should they use our money to buy them 100,000 naira phones. That's how much I used to harass the Senate. I didn't know that time was coming when they buy them more than 100,000 naira phones. It was telephone I was complaining about in 2002 and 2001. That how dare them use our 100K to buy phones for them? Can they not buy their phones themselves? So that's why the man said, you were looking for senator. Go ask that one. She's always giving us grief. But because I believe, I even would tell, when I'm driving with my husband, I will tell him, if you dare enter that one-way road, I will not vote for you, let alone that I will tell everybody not to vote for you. So I believe leaders must lead by example and they must be accountable. You cannot be breaking the law and then say you are a leader. It's not like that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. As leaders and as citizens, we must hold ourselves to higher standards that we even hold other people, and we must do the right thing. And please, citizens, as we go on, as we are going on to the 10th assembly, which by the grace of God, we never ever be anybody's rubber stamp assembly. We stand on it.
Amen. Inshallah.
That assembly was known for being a.
So we have an assembly for the people. And one thing also, please do not feel that you have to be doing your excellency. Until somebody does an excellent job, we cannot call that person your excellency. Until somebody distinguish themselves, we cannot call them distinguished. Until people behave in an honorable manner, we cannot call them honorable. So those titles, let's keep them aside. Yeah. I remember what Maureen Kabik did tell us again here, that the office of the citizen is the highest office in the land. So we as citizens, we actually occupy the highest office in the land, and please don't throw away the power of that office to begin to respect, as they call it. We didn't vote anybody in to be our auntie or our mother or our father or grandfather or grandparents or whatever it is. We voted for them to serve us and serve us the most. Where they do not serve us, we know what to do. Thank you very much, everyone. And thank you so much, Auntie Reti and Sister Maureen.
Thank you.
See you again next week.
Thank you, big sis. Bye-bye.
Love you so much. Thank you. Love you, Aisha. Every Saturday at 6 p.m. Nigerian time. And next week we will have another guest here that will speak to all of us. Thank you.
Bye-bye, ma'am. Yes.
Bye-bye.
Have a pleasant evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yes. I missed you. There was no salam meat from your house, Aisha. There was no salam meat from your house.
No, yes. When I come, we go do the salah. And we didn't do our dancing.
All right,
you know the last time we did our dancing.
Not. I can tell you, we did Bugatti.
So guys, I know you must have learned one or two things from this conversation, and for me, I think this is the right time for the Obidients to be members of political parties, because we really need to come, with full force for the change of a new Nigeria. We can't be staying afar off and we are dreaming of changing Nigeria. We must be a part and parcel of the system. We must, be fully involved when it comes to changing Nigeria. So for me, I think we should really get our hands fully deep, into politics. We should be members of various political parties, and if I'm to say, I'll prefer the Obidients, coming together to form a particular political party that that will understand the yearning of the people, and that will be our drive. So you've heard the conversation, and no doubt you must have taken one or two things from them. Please, so guys, I know you must have learned one or two things from this session. The conversation was meaningful to me, and I know you must have learned one or two things, because really we need to come together. The Obidient family, we need to come together. We need to be part and parcel of what is happening in Nigeria. We can't stay away from the politics and we want to change Nigeria. We must be part and parcel of what is happening, especially in terms of the politics in Nigeria. We need to be involved in political parties. We need to be members, card-carrying members of various political parties. And if I'm to say, I'm of the opinion that the Obedience should come together, and be part and parcel of a political party, meaning we all should belong to a particular party, even if it means forming our own political party. I think that won't be a big task. We should come together and ensure we are under the umbrella of a political party, so that we can influence things when it comes to politics in Nigeria. We can also change things, because we can't stay afar off to change Nigeria. We've seen that these our politicians have failed, and they failed woefully. The youths need to come in. Nigerian youths need to come in. They need to come in to change the narrative. Things can be better. So you can imagine we all coming together to belong to one particular political party, and try to effect some changes in Nigeria. I think that would be a welcome development, and that is just what my heart is yearning for. So guys, I know you must have learned one or two things from this session. Please let me know in the comment section below. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, turn on the notification bell. Please give this video a like so that YouTube can recommend it to others, and let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thank you.